Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to T-Minus the podcast presented by 321. I'm your host, Daniel.
I am Tyler.
I'm Nico.
I'm Ryan.
And I just got back from New Mexico. There's like one thing to do in Santa Fe, and Nico, you know about it. It's Meow Wolf, and it's amazing. And yeah.
What?
Yeah, so Google it. That's all I'm going to say.
Wolf.
It is pretty cool.
Google it.
Is that a safe at work
this
Google?
right now.
Yeah.
Meow Wolf? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
You definitely need to be on drugs when you go.
Is there a lot of Aztec print stuff?
Not there, but the city, yeah. And everything closes at 9 p.m. It's fantastic.
That was the first suggestion
So
when I typed
it's interesting because I'm on 6-hour flights, right? And
cool.
I
I
am
like
trying
it.
to download all the Netflix stuff because I'm on 6 hours of flights. And you come across of what's everything I haven't binge watched or something that's on my list, you know, kind of like Ryan and Atlanta. He hasn't watched it yet.
Started it.
Yeah.
Come on.
He just started it. So
I'm in 2 episodes.
If you started it and you didn't binge it all the way through, did you
Yeah, I
ever
know.
even really watch Atlanta?
Exactly.
I started it too late.
Exactly.
I have to watch it 5 more times to catch all the jokes now.
But like I come running across like in my head like, oh, let me create all these lists of things I can download to watch, and you really realize how much content Netflix has.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my biggest thing is, you know, we've all talked about the show hole, like when you end a show and then you go on a new show, because there's so much to pick from. I find myself, usually I'll get in my Netflix time either late at night after I spent time with the family or on lunch break.
Right.
And so I found myself plenty of times spending my entire lunch break watching show previews and not being able to settle on what I'm going to watch
Which
next.
one to watch.
Because I've been disappointed so many times where I pick something out and I watch like 5 minutes of it and I'm like, no, that's not the next one.
So I watched the Emmys. Did any of you watch the Emmys?
I didn't. I saw pictures and
I don't
read
even have cable.
I read
and-
recaps,
All
but
right, so I'm probably one of the 100 people that actually watch the Emmys across the globe.
pat yourself on the back.
Yeah,
What
I
an
am.
accomplishment.
that's daytime television or just all television?
It's I think it's mostly daytime. It's why I'm here. So I watched the Emmys, and you know they kind of made fun of themselves about how streaming television and streaming content's kind of dominating everything. I think Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and HBO like dominated the Emmys. They got every award. And mind you, this award show is on cable television. So it's on NBC, I believe, and majority of the wins were on other platforms, not even on cable. They joked about it. Oh, the Emmys are around for 70 years. It will probably be around for another 4 or 5.
I did catch some of the winners and the awards that were presented, and obviously a lot of them went to streaming platforms.
Right.
But what actual cable shows did win?
Sadly, SNL, I think, won.
SNL.
Yeah, for sketch
Wow.
comedy. Yeah.
Continuing
burn.
to take one
Yeah.
for the cable team.
Yeah, I've been sadly disappointed in a lot of the SNL content.
Yeah.
So
It's rough when it's rough when you have YouTubers that can digest quicker and produce quicker than
Yeah.
SNL now,
Yeah.
right? So they're trying to catch up and trying to do the same formula they've been doing for the last 30 years or whatever, while everyone else is figuring out another formula, right? To be able to create new content quicker and be a little more to the punch. Instead of only on Saturday, they're producing it on Tuesday and putting it out Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like they're getting it out.
well, yeah, I think that's the main factor to why streaming services are doing so well, is because there's a lot less bureaucracy. I mean, SNL has to deal with politics and getting scripts approved and all that kind of stuff, and hierarchies of executives and producers and all that kind of stuff. When streaming content, I mean, they're paying to put their stuff out there. And they just get it approved a lot quicker. They don't have to go through a lot of red tape.
Well, think about it. Like Netflix doesn't really advertise their shows very much. If they do, it's basically these are related to what you already watched.
Yeah.
Like they hardly ever advertise.
I feel like I never hear about shows until someone says, "Oh, have you watched this?" And I'm like, "Wait, I feel like I was on Netflix and I didn't even see it populate, but it does populate so according to what you watch that sometimes you'll completely miss a show, but they'll still get a lot of streams for it.
Yeah, you could tell when they push something, right?
Yeah.
So when Black Panther came on, even if you never watched that Marvel movie, they're like, hey, Black Panther's, available for Netflix now. But they're dumping $8 billion in new content for Netflix.
The original content blows me away.
Yeah.
It is top line.
Well, I think they're also doing this whole shotgun approach where they're testing content, right? So they sign up all these shows, produce all these shows because it's a lot cheaper than going through network, and they're just putting it out there. We're like, oh, this one missed, this one hit, this one missed, this one missed, this one hit, and then they're learning why it hit and then replicating it over and over again. So they're using data to figure out what consumers digest the most and how they interact with it, and then start pushing that envelope. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's a scary line there, though, of starting to find templated media that we're going to start seeing, where it's like we're seeing the same scripts over and over again, but it's just tweaked a little bit?
Kind of happening already.
Yeah,
There's a Netflix show that's just, it looks like a Ready Player One knockoff, where they're
Yeah, I
in
saw that.
a virtual reality video game, and like the consequences are real, and like the relationships are real. And I haven't watched it. I've only watched the preview when I'm looking for a new show to watch. But it looks like a straight copy.
Yeah.
I'm not that interested in watching it, honestly.
Well, that's like the Amazon show. I can't remember the exact name, but it was based off the Philip K. Dick book, Do Androids Sleep, I think is the name of it. And I watched maybe 4 episodes, and it's essentially Black Mirror for Amazon.
Yeah, that one's like
it's
Electric.
almost Electric
Jungle
Dreams, I
Dreams?
think.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, so I agree that they kind of have parody involved with content, but in the 90s we had Real World, Road Rules, Real World versus Road Rules, Housewives of every city.
That's true. Yeah,
it's like even
the formulas are successful.
The formula's successful. I think the difference is it's I think it's more apparent with cable is because they don't have the luxury of a hit or miss. So they're like, that worked, we're just going to keep redoing that over and over and over and over again. Or have something else, or a competitor network will do the same thing, right? Something that's similar. The Voice, America's Got Talent, American Idol, and all these other shows. You're like, they're all kind of the same now with variables that might be minorly different, right?
Yeah.
Even different from reality TV too. Like they'll have like the traditional show of like a family, and there's wacky dynamics within the family, and then they'll use that template over and over and over and over again. Like how many cable television shows are of like a wacky family dynamic that's just set in a different place with different characters, but it's all the same.
I think the tying thread, though, is you hit a point there where you talk about the dynamics of characters, basically. And shows that do really well have great character development. I mean, look at Game of Thrones. Look at Walking Dead. that are shows that have action in them, but when you really get down to the nitty gritty, it's all about character development. So I think you can get away with templatizing storylines as long as you have strong characters that you really delve into and learn who they are. And that's how people get attached to a show, because they end up having a favorite character, or sometimes let their mind wander and pretend like they're that character, or whatever it is. But I think that's what makes templatization successful, is because of character development.
Well, that's what sets them apart too.
So obviously they're saying, and I think it's a scare that cable says, they're dying. The cable's dying, right? I don't think television is not. Television is alive and well. It's just how we're consuming television, right? It's just different platforms, different streaming services. That's still television. You're watching it on your TV, on your phone. You're digesting this content. I just see that from an advertiser standpoint, I think it's shifting a bit more, because think about it. You watch a 30-minute sitcom on ABC, you're getting 8 to 10 minutes of commercials, right? You watch something on, say, Hulu, and you're getting a minute, 30 seconds of advertising. So, and you're paying for that streaming service as well. So where, from an advertiser standpoint, obviously, you can see the shift of it, but inventory is less. Eyeballs are less when it comes to impressions and engagement and being able to get your brand message across. So I think that's going to shift entirely when it comes to traditional television. That when more consumers start moving over to streaming, cutting the cord, quote unquote, just having internet and being able to watch whatever they want to watch, I don't know how that affects this industry specifically.
You don't think that there's some kind of, I don't want to call them lobbyists, but that's essentially what they are, but the powers that be, these big media moguls, right. If there's some political push and shove to where I think we could have already been at complete streaming services, but there are some controls behind the scene that are not allowing it to happen because, think of the ramifications of cable television going bye-bye.
Right.
We're talking about trillions of dollars in advertising.
I know.
Where does that get placed?
I think that's kind of my question for me is I'm kind of looking ahead and saying unless these streaming services start opening up more advertising revenue and kind of start depleting the consumer experience that they're currently having, I don't see where that inventory can go, right? Where those impressions are just gone and lost for now. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. The biggest thing is, so Netflix is, in the red every year. They're losing money every year. They're bleeding money because they're kind of banking on the future of what it can be. But again, advertising is what drives a lot of that money. So does that mean Netflix opens up advertising even on a paid subscription like they tried to do kind of like a couple months ago?
I'd be interested in seeing the numbers on people that are willing to pay for a premium service to get rid of advertising, because I know that I have.
Right.
I do have some services like the CBS app. Like I don't have cable.
Right.
I've borrowed my parents' cable login
when you need to watch certain things. Yeah.
So I use that to watch all the network stuff, ESPN, all that kind of stuff.
True millennial.
That is wow. Yeah.
But like HBO,
right.
There's no option for that. I would be interested to see, the people that are using like the Spotify free, like how intrigued they are to buy the premium service just to get rid of advertising. Because to me, I can't stand the advertisement. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how other people feel, but are they, if they put a price tag on streaming with no commercials at a certain price, would everyone pay it and essentially eliminate commercials altogether?
That would be tough with, I think live television is probably the hardest thing to do that with, right? But with, say Hulu has that example, is they're like, oh, you pay like $8.99, you get some commercials, and then you can pay premium and get no commercials or whatever, right? So they have those options, which that gives, because you might be different, right? So you may like, I'll pay $20 not to see ads, and some people are like, I can't afford that, I can afford 10, and I'm fine with watching advertisements. You know what I mean? But given the option to, I think definitely is a plus. It's just $10 more a month per person. Is that generating the revenue that advertisement would? You know what I mean?
I guess that's hard to say, really.
It is.
It would depend on how many people actually wanted to pay upwards to have that premium service without advertising. I have regular Spotify, and it is extremely annoying to have advertisements, but I will not pay the whatever $11 it is to have the premium. But again, it's different because I do not use that service like I use streaming services.
Right.
So if all of a sudden advertisements were added into the Netflix, the Netflix algorithm, or added into HBO, which obviously that's not going to happen, but added into a number of different streaming services that I have to watch, then yeah, I would definitely pay a premium. Because when it comes to watching, that's different than listening. To listening, I feel like I tune things out. When I'm watching, I'm fully there. So when a commercial comes up, it's such an annoyance and it's such a deterrent away from what I'm doing that if I had commercials, I almost think I would just watch something entirely different that didn't have commercials.
I think Netflix just changed the game, basically. Like, our industry throws the word disruptive around a lot, but
right.
Like, here's a real case of it where I don't think these streaming services are trying to make profit on subscriptions that would beat out advertising profits. I think they're just trying to stay afloat. They're just trying to keep up with Netflix, because if they don't, then they're definitely going to lose. So like CBS All Access, that's the only way to watch certain CBS shows, Star Trek in particular. And it's like $5 a month with a few ads, and it's not that many ads, honestly. Or it's like $11 a month with no ads. So I can't imagine that that's making them more revenue than just spamming us with ads would be making them.
Where do they place the ads? Like, is it usually just at the beginning? Or does it make you stop?
It's throughout. It's like normal TV. And then during the last act of the episode, there would be more frequent ads, because that's when you're really
Most
locked
engaged.
in.
Yeah.
So, this is, I think, where people or companies are, I think, overreacting to streaming as well. And I think we talked about this in a podcast, let's say season 1, if you want to call it, are we getting to the point where every channel is going to have their own streaming service, and you have to do like a la carte service? Like Disney's creating their streaming service, which they're going to kind of discontinue their contract with Netflix now, and Disney's going to dominate their content.
Disney has
and
a
own
lot
it.
of content.
They have a lot of
I mean,
content.
Disney makes sense in my
Disney
mind.
owns ABC,
Right.
ESPN,
Not to mention
all their
everything-
movies, all their TV shows.
Yeah, everything that's existed in the
They
past.
have, they have 3 channels on.
Did the Fox merger go through, or is that going to take a while?
I believe it did, and I believe the X-Men franchise got put in there too. So that should be interesting. But
You
you
see
know what I mean?
Fox on streaming too, with
Yeah.
the FX app. I think it's Fox, FX.
FXX.
FXX.
Well, the
There's
original
one more in there that surprises me.
The original rumor a while ago was that Apple was in the works of negotiating deals with all the major players to offer kind of a pick
Package
your price,
discount, right.
like pick 5 channels that you want at this price, and you got the full-fledged TV channels
Right.
completely streaming, no advertising, nothing. Which
I think that's coming soon. Yeah,
I
it's
think
on the
that's what
radar.
it's going to end up going to. I think that cable might not die, but it just might morph. It might pivot.
So it might be like a more diverse version of Sling TV.
Yes.
Okay, because Sling TV, you can select like red package or blue package, and it has like 25 channels or 25 channels, or you can get all 50 for X amount of money.
Yeah.
So you can kind of pick and choose, but a little more granular, where you're like, I want only ESPN, ESPN2. I don't need ESPN Ocho, right? The
Ocho.
The Ocho. I don't want ABC. I want Fox. I want this and that. Yada yada yada. And then if a new show comes on, TV, I just pick up that new channel now, right?
Yeah.
For next month or whatever it is. I guess the issue though is that's still live TV. So for instance, Blackish can just go all streaming if they wanted to, right? Brooklyn Nine-Nine could literally go all streaming if they wanted to. But like live TV is the only thing I can see where it still needs to have some type of subscription base that kind of goes across the board, because like football or basketball, any sports or any live event, like you have to have commercials, you have to have these breaks, you have to watch it at that specific time.
Yeah.
So ABC can say, here's a subscription and here's all of our content, just like Netflix does, right? They don't release anything. They're just like, here's all of it. You can binge all of it now. Do you think they're going to go that model, or do you think they're going to still go with the whole week by week, full season?
I think there's something. It depends on the platform. I think there's something fun about like my wife and I are sadly locked into Big Brother season 752, whatever it's at now.
Sadly, there is a strong Big Brother love out there.
Okay, well then maybe I just need to come out of the closet per se.
It's a safe
but
space.
There's something cool about having that cliffhanger at the end,
right?
And then waiting a week, and then texting my wife on Tuesday at lunch, going, oh, I can't wait to see what happens on Big Brother tonight, or are we ordering pizza? What's going on? Making plans that revolve around the show. You remember watch parties?
So saying like
Used
the
to be
human
so
connection
big.
aspect
Yeah.
of it.
Like when 24 was out and you had to
Yeah.
wait a week for every episode of 24. Like I knew people that were getting together for watch parties that had like almost 100 people at the watch parties. It was insane. So I think that aspect of TV should still exist. But I think that you can get away with having a streaming service that happens once a week that doesn't have commercials. I mean, think about our favorite sporting events.
Right.
If you've been to a live football game or
Right.
basketball game, and all of a sudden the players are in the middle of playing and they stop the game and they walk
TV
off the
timeout.
field, and you're just like, it just doesn't feel real.
Right.
You know, it's just kind of lame. So I think it's a challenge to the networks. They're going to have to come up with content. I mean, the biggest struggle is going to be halftime, right?
Right.
They got to come up with 30 minutes of,
Crap.
chatter and
Right.
whatever. But I think it's possible. It would suck for advertising.
Well,
but-
and for the NFL and NBA, you know how much money comes from advertising
Oh,
from
yeah.
those cable companies? Like just to show advertisements during the NBA Finals or the Super Bowl.
yeah.
$4 million for an ad in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like all that goes away. Where's that money coming from now, right? To generate that I think there's a lot of questions I have that obviously even the smartest people in the world are trying to figure out right now of the behavior of how consumers are digesting and where's that going and how to get ahead of the curve. Because right now I feel like they're all trying to catch up. They're all trying to say what are the consumers doing now and how can I grab their attention again, right? So ABC comes out with one, Fox comes out with streaming services and opens up kind of like HBO Go, and to me that's just like a reactionary thing to the future rather than being in the forefront and saying where can we go with this and how can we make money off it as a business, but also how can the consumer be benefited by it as well, because at the end of the day the consumer is what determined all of this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How we digested content is what switched all this around, right? Same thing with Blockbuster to Netflix, right? And all those things. It's just what did we do as a people and agreed upon and grew that made sense for us, that disrupted an industry. You know what I mean? Like we talk about Uber and Lyft, and there's obviously a running joke online that says, 15 years ago we were told not to talk to strangers online and never get into strangers' cars. Now we literally are calling strangers online to get in their cars. You know what I mean? Like our behavior switched really quickly, and psychologically before that didn't make any sense, but now it does. So how we digest content now is going to be very different than in the future. So what does that look like, and how do we get there? And I think obviously none of us in here have the answer, and even Netflix doesn't really have the answer, but they're kind of driving the data to really try to figure out what that looks like, right? And it's interesting because they're bleeding money, but they're not worried about the revenue. Because if they're really worried about the revenue, they wouldn't spend $8 billion on new content. But they're trying to get ahead of it and saying, let's go in the forefront and let's take a risk. It's just, what does that risk look like?
Yeah. I mean, even as a consumer, I'm not even sure what I prefer. I feel like I'm all over the place. I could wait every week, like you mentioned earlier with your wife, to watch a show like I do with HBO shows. And I love that because I do feel like the time in between the shows, I'm like reading articles online and I'm like talking with my friends about it, and I'm getting myself really pumped, and that communal experience of watching television is very exciting and very real. But then I also fall victim to the simplicity and the ease of binging a show and having that kind of manic desire to sit and watch something all at once. So I guess it's hard to understand what consumers are doing when me as a consumer, I'm not even sure exactly how I best like to take in television because of how different it is on every platform.
I think we've always never consumed any type of media consistently, I feel,
Agreed.
right? So even Hulu has it where the show airs on TV first, and then it gets released the next day on Hulu. So you still have, even if you have a streaming service, you're still waiting for some shows to watch, right? So you watch Big Brother, right? And you Hulu? Or?
Yeah, well, I have the CBS app.
Oh, you have CBS.
So
So-
that's one of the frustrating
Right.
things is because if you don't catch it in time.
You have to wait.
If you're not watching it live and you go 10 minutes after the show ends, you're waiting the next day. And
Correct.
you're trying to stay away from blogs and social media posts
Right.
and all that kind of stuff.
So even then, say you cut the cord completely on cable, right? No live TV. You'd still wait for Big Brother because you had to. You know what
Well, I mean, it's a psychological thing. I mean,
Right,
it
exactly.
wouldn't seem like waiting because that's your normal schedule.
As I'm saying, you're not waiting, but you're anticipating
Yes.
for the next, right? While and I think with those kind of shows, it's weird. It's like if football, like all 16 weeks happened at once, and you're like, here's all 16 weeks. You're like, I'm going to just watch the week 16 and see what happened,
Yeah.
right? So Big Brother, I feel those kind of building shows, you need to have that depth to be able to release like that. Like Stranger Things, you're just going to watch in sequence.
Yeah.
But-
Actually, I timed it
Unhappily.
out to watch once a week.
Really?
Every episode? No.
I was going to say,
I
what?
sat on my couch and I binged
I
it
was
like
gonna say,
a
you
crazy
crazy
person.
woman, you crazy woman.
all
Well,
on
you
the
look
same
at
night.
you look at shorter season shows like what is one like Silicon Valley.
Right.
Okay, most of us are always anticipating the next drop of Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I watch it in 2 or 3 days, and then it's just like,
Avoid
well,
it. Yeah,
let's
there
see
you go.
what happens
I
next
got
year.
I got a year now.
Yeah.
Great.
I think HBO's in both worlds pretty solidly with the short
Absolutely.
seasons. You can watch it the minute after it goes live. You can stream it.
Yeah.
They're just doing both really well.
Yeah. I would say that consistency would be nice because I know that we have so many different platforms. I mean, we'll get on the Apple TV and we'll go in 3 different apps and go, oh, this is on such and such, not this.
Right.
Searching for the show because we can't remember what platform it's actually on.
All right. Yeah. So what we got out of this is none of us know anything about streaming. Don't know where it's going, and yeah. So we'll basically just sit here with the rest of you and hope for the best.
Wait, I have a fun thing maybe to do before we end it out. Everyone has to say a show you're watching right now. What are you into? Start with Dan.
Literally just finished the American Vandal season 2.
I just finished season 1.
Oh, okay.
love
Season
that
2 is
show.
actually really good too.
I heard good stuff.
I gotta watch season 2. I'm always watching Star Trek. That's
Same.
fine.
It's an ongoing.
I'm actually one of the benefits of that I really feel that Netflix brings. I'm actually in the middle of a show called 3%. It's actually a show that's from Brazil.
Oh,
It's
Tres
Portuguese.
Percentes.
Tres Percentes.
I've watched that one.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it is really good. So you get that option of seeing shows that you would never see on American television because Netflix has that capability, which is really cool.
Well, I'm rewatching The Wire, as I mentioned earlier. Best show on television and streaming.